Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. I'm going to talk today about the Kane auctions coming up, the Fewocious drop, which is coming up, some interesting news from Citigroup, a little bit about Friendtech. Let's get right into it, starting off with a quick market overview. Volumes up a little bit from Sunday, but still just very down bad, just very low NFT volumes. If you look at where the market share is, it's moving a little bit away from Blur. That tends to happen when there are fewer people dumping into bids, and we've seen a little bit of a break from that. In terms of the large cap index, basically flat, not a whole lot of movement, a little bit of up move in the Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem and World of Women, whereas punks were quite weak, down about 4%. I'll show you that chart in a second. Mid-cap index down about 2%, some strength in cyber brokers, weakness in VV checks. Let's have a look at that CryptoPunks chart. You can't really see it here, but you can see the floor went from 47 to 44.9. First time this floor has been below 45 in a long while, so CryptoPunks floor is starting to be a little bit weak as well. Looking at Friendtech, let's have a look at overall volume for Friendtech relative to the NFT ecosystem. You can see that Friendtech volumes were up a little bit versus yesterday. Still, it's now been 7 days in a row where the volume on Friendtech keys is higher than the volume on ETH NFTs. I built an index here because I wanted to, volume, as we know from NFTs, volume isn't always the best indicator for price. This index I built here looks at the daily returns of the top 250 keys and sees how that's performing. And you can see it's basically flat over the past 24 hours. And it's basically been flat since last Friday when they announced new airdrop points. So I think that this is something I'm going to start focusing on a little bit. Another metric you can look at is the amount of buy volume versus sell volume. Friendtech keys are different from NFTs. NFTs, there's a buy and there's a seller every time. With Friendtech keys, you're buying and selling against a bonding curve. So there's a price and you can either buy or you can sell. So looking at the difference in buy volume versus sell volume is actually pretty relevant. And what you can see is that yesterday we had another uptick in total buy volume relative to sell volume. And I think all days in September, aside from two of them, you've had more buy volume than sell volume. I really do think people want to hold on to keys. It's part of getting the airdrop is keeping your ETH in the keys, keeping that TVL high. And I think we're seeing that in the data as well. In terms of art projects, a fair bit, 4 Chromie Squiggle trades around the floor, a ringer sale, which we'll show you in a second. Let's just have a quick look right now. Here's the ringer sale, 27.1 ETH for that. You also had an anti-cyclone, which sold for 5.9 ETH. Lower left here, we have Life in West America, 3.9 ETH sale there, brought that floor up to about 4.2. That project, that floor has really kind of stayed in that 4 ETH range for a long time. And then there's a Distance by William Upon at 1.7 ETH. Distance is the mint that he did last week at 2 ETH. So unfortunate to already see kind of the floor a little bit below there. Maybe not the floor, but where the transactions are happening on that, but certainly in line with what we're seeing across a lot of NFT projects right now. Second thing to talk about, Fewocious announcement about this drop that is coming next week. For a reminder, it is Fewos. Let's call them Fewos. Fewo. We'll call them Fewos. They're the inhabitants of Fewo world. 20,000 unique characters created through the cosmic explosion of paint. Just very classic Fewo art here. Very cool stuff. I think 20,000 is a lot of NFTs to drop in this market, but let's read a little bit more here. 3 species, Frankenstein, Misunderstood, and Humanoid. Cool stuff. All from the website. But yesterday, Fewocious announced that Fewocious has been working on this project for over a year with so many awesome people, so much passion, and it's coming next week. Can't believe it. So excited. Make sure to save this graphic with all the details. What did the details basically say? There's a snapshot on September 25th. That's a week from yesterday of all the paint holders, people who own the Fewocious paint drops. Holders can then mint, or holders I believe are going to get airdropped these new ones on September 26th. There's a public mint on September 27th. The price is 0.4 ETH for the public, 0.125 for Fewocious art holders, and it is free. The airdrop is free for people who own the paint NFTs. The reveal is on October 2nd. There's one caveat, because you're probably thinking 20,000 NFTs at 0.4 ETH. That is a tough mandate in this market. Now, what they have done is they're going to see how many sell out, how many of the early ones sell out of those 0.125 ETH ones, I believe, how many of those actually get bought. And based on that, they're going to adjust the price for what the price will be for public. So this 0.4, 0.125, those are the max prices. It could be a little bit lower, and my guess is it will be, just given the market we were in, but we'll see. In terms of the paint prices, because it is the paint prices that get you this Fewocious NFT, you can see this has basically been flat since July. So not a whole lot of movement here, with about a 0.25 ETH floor. And I believe the supply on these is around 7,500. So that is certainly something that we will be tracking next week. One of the absolute top artists in the space with some of the top one-of-ones. Very curious to see how a drop goes against this backdrop that we're in. Third thing to talk about, Kane Anons. This, Matt Kane is, as we know, is the artist behind Gazers, one of the most successful art blocks projects. Also has a lot of one-of-ones that have sold very well, and overall just one of the more successful generative artists. And he has built a software product on which he creates his art, which makes all of his art have a pretty kind of distinguishable look and feel and makes him unique. Here is an image he tweeted out, portraits released in waves, but it is starting today. I believe at 12 Eastern. So I said 12 Eastern, but that's already happened. So I believe it's starting today. Who knows what time, but starting today. Let's have a quick look at what this art looks like. It is called Anons, and it starts with kind of a portrait in the middle, and then there are a bunch of them that build out around it. So for every portrait, there are a lot of different kind of derivatives of that portrait, or derivative is probably the wrong word. Sometimes it goes into really good detail, uses the recursive technology to dive really deep into what is happening on the screen. But there are multiple NFTs associated with every single portrait, as you can see there. Each piece starts with a vintage photograph, and Matt Kane talks about how these photographs are Anons whose memory would otherwise fade away, and he wants to immortalize them on chain, but includes color and processing and takes this image and builds so much more personality, narrative, and story around them, and that's what he's trying to do. Then dives into little details, little ideas of what that piece is, and that creates more detail, more narrative around who they are, and uses recursive algorithms in that process. I learned all of this from watching a 7-minute video, which Matt has pinned to his tweet, or pinned to his X profile. So you should go check that out to learn more about this project. But will be interesting to see those auctions going on right now. One of the top tier artists, an interesting piece of work, an auction format against a very slow NFT market. Again, very curious to see how that plays out. Fourth thing to talk about, and we'll be quick on this one, but Citi Token Services from Citi, one of the biggest banks in the world, I believe top 5 banks in the world, adds more blockchain functionality for their clients. Here is a headline. Citigroup launches Citi Token Services for institutional clients. The multinational financial institution has expressed optimism about blockchain adoption in the past and is moving ahead with its token services program. The basic idea is they want to use a private blockchain. So not on ETH, not on Bitcoin, of course, just using a private blockchain for them and trying to use that technology to allow clients to send money internationally very quickly. The services has also been applied to a global cash management pilot, which enables institutional clients to transfer liquidity between Citi branches on a 24/7 basis. So that's basically, different from now where you have to wait till business hours to make those transfers. They also are working with Maersk, which is one of the biggest shipping companies, to see how blockchain can work to help the shipping industry. They say they expect to reduce processing times from days to minutes. That's one of the goals that they have here. So this is certainly kind of part of a broader narrative of more, we hear it both with national currencies trying to go on chain, but also big corporations moving on chain in a trend that I'm sure we'll continue to see more of. And then lastly, back to NFTs, let's talk about a couple quick notable sales. A Blue Beams Bored Ape sells for 135 ETH. This is an ape with bubble gum. 135 ETH is a great price, I think, for this market. For a Blue Beams price, these used to sell in the 300 ETH or more. Let's have a quick look at where Blue Beams have been selling recently. The most recent one sold for 105 ETH. So this was a nice step up from that. But then the prior ones were for 300, 241, 318. But again, we're seeing a total repricing of grails as well as the floors. So no surprise to see that down a bit. Next, Parked Up by OXDGB. This one sold for 3.2 ETH, I believe 3 ETH after fees. The buyer, Flip It ETH. And this was part of a series of 3 images that OXDGB created, 3 illustrations. You can see them here. And these 2 are still for sale. So if you like this look and feel, you like this narrative that's been created, the one on the left, the one on the middle, I believe at minimum bids of 3, but that one on the right did get taken with that bike. Nice to see that for OXDGB. Again, an artist who's been very prolific and who has a very unique look and feel. So love to see a sale there. And if you like these 2, those 2 are still for sale. And then lastly, one piece called Morphic V by Miss Al Simpson sold for 1 ETH. The buyer was Jakaz. Very cool image here. A little bit more about this artist. I believe she's based in Scotland. and she calls herself an award-winning OG crypto artist with unique style, merging a digital graffiti style similar to Basquiat, Rauschenberg, and Kippenberger with 3D historical motifs and animation. She's exhibited in Vancouver, New York, Paris, Tokyo, London, and a quote here from Bonham's Auction House: "In this digital avant-garde, Miss Al Simpson has become one of the chief protagonists of this new movement." Very cool stuff. Congrats to her as well as the buyer. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back tomorrow. We're not going to be here on Thursday because of Marfa, but we will be back tomorrow with another show. Give us a like. Tell us what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.